Did you know that after the age of 60, muscle loss does not begin evenly across the body? It starts quietly, in one specific muscle, long before most people notice weakness anywhere else. Research observing older adults has found that this single muscle can lose strength and activation years before visible frailty appears. And when it does, everyday tasks like walking steadily, climbing stairs, or even standing on one leg to put on shoes become subtly harder. Not because of aging itself, but because this muscle stops doing its job. Before we continue, let us know in the comments how old you are and where you're watching from. This helps build a community of people focused on staying steady, independent, and confident as they age. The muscle we are talking about is not the arms, not the abdominals, and not even the large muscles on the front of the thighs that most people focus on. It is a smaller, deeper muscle on the side of the hip called the gluteus medius. Clinicians increasingly observe that this is one of the earliest muscles to weaken after 60, particularly in people who walk less, sit more, or avoid side-to-side movement due to stiffness or fear of falling. The gluteus medius plays a critical role in keeping the pelvis level when you walk. Every time you take a step, this muscle activates to prevent the hip from dropping on the opposite side. When it weakens, the body compensates in ways that strain the knees, overload the lower back, and reduce balance. This is one reason why falls often begin with a subtle sideways wobble rather than a dramatic forward trip. Studies in orthopedic and geriatric research suggest that reduced hip abductor strength, which includes the gluteus medius, is strongly associated with slower walking speed, decreased balance confidence, and higher fall risk. Yet most common exercise advice still emphasizes forward movement, like walking or cycling, which does very little to activate this muscle. This is where most people get it wrong. Walking is excellent for cardiovascular health, joint lubrication, and mental well-being. But walking alone does not sufficiently challenge the gluteus medius. The muscle's primary function is lateral stabilization, not forward propulsion. So even people who walk daily may still be losing this muscle quietly. If this muscle continues to weaken, the consequences can compound. The pelvis begins to tilt with each step. The knee collapses inward slightly. The lumbar spine absorbs forces it was never designed to handle repeatedly. Over time, this pattern is associated with knee pain, hip discomfort, and reduced confidence when moving outdoors. Many older adults unconsciously shorten their stride or avoid uneven surfaces, not because they are incapable, but because their stabilizing muscles are no longer reliable. The good news is that this muscle responds exceptionally well to targeted, low-impact exercise. You do not need heavy weights, gym machines, or long workouts. In fact, one of the most effective ways to reawaken and strengthen the gluteus medius takes just 5 minutes and can be done safely at home. We will build toward that exercise because understanding why it works helps ensure it is done correctly and consistently. First, it is important to understand why common advice falls short. Many strength programs for older adults focus on the quadriceps through seated leg extensions or repeated sit-to-stand movements. While these are valuable, they primarily train knee extension. They do not address lateral hip stability. Similarly, standing balance exercises often emphasize holding still rather than controlled movement, which limits muscle engagement. Clinicians and physical therapists increasingly recommend exercises that involve controlled sideways movement or resistance against hip abduction. This aligns with findings from rehabilitation research showing that targeted hip abductor training improves gait stability and reduces compensatory strain patterns. Now, let us talk about the 5-minute exercise that addresses this directly. The exercise is a supported standing side leg raise, performed slowly and with intention. What surprises many people is that when done correctly, it activates the gluteus medius more effectively than many floor-based exercises, while remaining joint-safe and accessible. Begin by standing next to a sturdy chair or countertop. One hand rests lightly on the support, not to lean, but to ensure balance. Stand tall with both feet pointing forward and weight evenly distributed. The supporting leg should be slightly soft at the knee, not locked. Slowly lift the opposite leg out to the side, only a few inches. The key is not how high the leg goes, but how controlled the movement is. The toes stay facing forward, not turning outward. The torso remains upright, without leaning away. This alignment ensures the movement comes from the hip, not the lower back. Pause briefly at the top, then slowly lower the leg back to the starting position. This slow lowering phase is where much of the muscle activation occurs. Perform this movement for about 30 seconds on one side, rest briefly, then switch sides. Over 5 minutes, this can be done in short sets that feel manageable but effective. Why does this work so well? Anatomically, the gluteus medius originates on the outer surface of the pelvis and inserts on the greater trochanter of the femur. Its job is to abduct the hip and stabilize the pelvis during single-leg stance. By standing and lifting one leg while the other supports the body, you are training the muscle in the exact way it is used during walking. Research in physical therapy journals indicates that closed-chain stabilization combined with controlled abduction improves neuromuscular activation more than isolated, fast repetitions. In simpler terms, slow and steady wins here. If someone has limited balance or discomfort standing, this exercise can be modified. It can be done holding the chair with both hands. The range of motion can be smaller. Even lifting the foot just an inch off the ground, if done with proper alignment, can be effective. The goal is activation, not strain. As strength improves, progression is simple. A light resistance band can be placed around the ankles. The time under tension can be increased slightly, or the pause at the top can be extended by a second or two. These small changes continue to challenge the muscle without increasing joint stress. Clinicians often recommend this exercise because it has a low-risk profile and high functional relevance. It mirrors the demands of daily life rather than training the body in positions it rarely uses. Here is what surprised researchers in observational studies. Improvements in hip abductor strength were associated not just with better balance, but with increased walking confidence. People reported feeling steadier on stairs and less hesitant on uneven ground. This psychological component matters deeply because fear of falling often leads to reduced movement, which accelerates muscle loss further. Ignoring this muscle does not usually cause immediate problems. Instead, it creates a gradual narrowing of movement options. Shorter steps, less time on one leg, more reliance on handrails. These are subtle signs, but they signal that the stabilizing system is under strain. By spending 5 minutes a day reactivating the gluteus medius, you are not just strengthening a muscle. You are reinforcing a foundation for independent movement. You are telling the nervous system that lateral stability still matters, that balance can be trusted, and that movement remains safe. This matters more than it seems because independence is not lost in a single event. It is lost through small adaptations that slowly reduce confidence and capability. Reversing that process does not require intensity. It requires precision and consistency. To make this part of daily life, attach it to an existing habit. Do it while waiting for the kettle to boil. Do it after brushing your teeth. 5 minutes is short enough to be realistic, but long enough to signal the body to maintain this muscle. In summary, the gluteus medius is often one of the first muscles to weaken after 60, not because of age alone, but because modern movement patterns neglect its function. Walking and general activity are important, but they are not enough to preserve lateral hip stability. A simple, supported side leg raise, performed slowly for 5 minutes a day, can help maintain strength, balance, and confidence. If you start today, focus on control rather than height, alignment rather than effort, and consistency rather than intensity. Over time, this small investment is associated with steadier walking, reduced joint strain, and greater independence in daily tasks. Share in the comments if balance or hip strength has ever limited your movement, or if you are starting this exercise today. And remember, maintaining dignity and independence is not about pushing harder. It is about supporting the body in the ways it was designed to move.